Okay, good evening or good morning, wherever you are. Welcome to our Governance Roundtable. Thank you so much for joining us. Before we start, I'd just like to share a little bit. Basically, this is an initiative by the Asia DeFi Network, and I'm Shikai from LongHash Ventures. And today we want to facilitate an open conversation about governance. Now, just a bit of background, which I'm sure all of us are super familiar, right? We're still super early in DeFi and governance, but there's a very clear social consensus that we want to move towards like community-owned and community-governed protocols with so many benefits, as we all know, censorship resistance, anti-fragility, and so on. So in this spirit, this conversation will also be recorded and we will also share it widely after the session. And we will also be putting together a research piece based on our conversation today, as well as any points and learnings in the future from public discourse as well. And we will share that piece of research publicly too. Now, so that we can all understand the flow for today, let's pull up the agenda. We're going to have two longer sharing sessions from Aave and Synthetix. We have Stanley and Jordan with us. And then after that, we're going to go through 15 minutes each from everyone's perspectives around the round table, from investor perspective, as well as Balancer, Acala, and Instadapp on various decentralization journeys. So in order to make the conversation a bit more guided and structured, we have already taken the liberty to facilitate the conversation across three major buckets. Right? We want to talk about firstly the structure of governance, and then what are processes and tools, and then the engagement and incentives. So under structure, we're talking about, firstly, what do we decentralize? From the simplest level of like a pool of grants to then more complex things like maybe incentivizing some asset pools or bringing new assets to the most kind of like critical core protocol features or even governance. And we can do this via a few archetypes, be it just like very simple open proposals, or having some sort of guardrails through some kind of committees, or going through a very strict kind of like subcommittee or sub-DAO structure. And then to implement these proposals as well, we want to go through the various steps, be it like discussion, the proposal, iteration, and then the execution of the proposals. And finally, for the engagement and incentives, I'm going to talk about who can vote, how much voting power, what are incentives to even vote or participate, and the softer human side of how do we encourage people to kind of join and amplify and reward people for being part of the community. So we have put together some of the questions here to guide us in each of our sharing, be it from from everyone from the roundtable. So feel free to use this as a guide, but also kind of like add in, feel free to flow with the conversation.